basically live in two states of mind. We live in survival or we live in creation. Now, living in survival is living in stress. And stress is when your body's knocked out of homeostasis. Stress is when your body's knocked out of balance. The stress response is what your body innately does to return itself back to order. So you have different types of stressors. You have physical stress like injury, trauma, accidents, falls. You have chemical stress like bacterias and blood sugar levels and hormones and hangovers. And then you have emotional stress, family tragedies, second mortgages, single parenting, finances. And every one of those things begin to knock the brain and body out of balance, because when we perceive a threat or a stress in our external world, we turn on a nervous system called the fight or flight nervous system, and we mobilize enormous amounts of energy to prepare us for some event in our external world. Now, the problem with that is that all organisms in nature can tolerate short-term stress. Zebra gets chased by a lion, you're driving down the road in your car, you get cut off, the hormones of stress turn on, but 15-20 minutes later, you adapt and your body returns back to balance and you go to work, or the zebra goes back to grazing and the event is over. Human beings are a little different because we can turn on that stress response just by thought alone. We can begin to think about some future worst case scenario in our life. And out of the infinite potentials in the quantum field, we're selecting the worst possible future based on the memory of the past. And that limited imagination and preparing ourselves for the event and bracing ourselves for that outcome begins to knock the body out of physiological balance just by thought alone. In other words, the body, as the unconscious mind, begins to believe it's in that future event in the present moment, and we begin to create the stress response just by thought alone. We could also unfold a past bitter memory that's tattooed in the recesses of our gray matter. We can revisit that event over and over again, and we can produce the same chemistry in the brain and body as if the event occurred. Now, it's the redundancy of that process that begins to condition the body emotionally to become the mind. And when the body becomes the mind, that's called a habit. So 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, attitudes that function just like a subconscious computer program. So then the emotions of anger, aggression, frustration, hatred, judgment, fear, anxiety, insecurity, unworthiness, guilt, shame, sadness, pain, they're all derived from the hormones of stress. And 70% of the time or more, most people live in those emotional states. So when we're living by those emotional states, those chemicals endorse the ego to become selfish, self-involved, self-centered, self-indulgent, self-important, self-aggrandizing, self-pity. It's all about the self. Now, in survival, whether you're a frog, feline, or whether you're a human being, whether you're a lizard, when those chemicals are turned on, it's all about taking care of the body. So then, the moment we turn on the stress response, if we turn on the stress response and we can't turn it off, now we're headed for disease, because no organism can tolerate living in emergency mode for extended periods of time.